Ambassador Yuna's iridescent skin turns a sickly shade of green as she collapses to the floor of the Norcadian embassy, her tall, slender frame convulsing violently. The cause? Learning the truth about human reproduction. Chaos erupts in the embassy as Dr. Isaac Thompson, the xenobiologist who had been explaining human biology, rushes to Yuna's side. Alarms blare, and security personnel swarm the room. Outside, Earth's forces quickly surround the building, their weapons trained on every exit. "Ambassador down! We need medical assistance immediately!" shouts a Norcadian aide, her voice tinged with panic. As human and Norcadian medical teams converge on the unconscious ambassador, Dr. Thompson finds himself roughly pulled aside by security officers from both species. The cultural exchange program, meant to foster understanding between humans and Norcadians, has just become a potential flashpoint for interstellar conflict. "What did you do to her?" demands a burly Norcadian guard looming over Thompson. "Nothing. I was just explaining human reproductive biology," Thompson protests, his mind racing to understand Yuna's violent reaction. The embassy's communication channels light up as news of the incident spreads. Within minutes, the Norcadian High Command issues a stern warning: explain the situation or face severed diplomatic ties. Earth's governments, realizing the gravity of the situation, scramble to formulate a response. As tensions escalate, Ambassador Yuna stirs, her eyes fluttering open. She looks around wildly, her gaze settling on Dr. Thompson. How can you live like that?" she whispers, her voice filled with horror and disgust. Thompson, recognizing the depth of the misunderstanding, makes a split-second decision. "I volunteer for a mind meld," he announces, silencing the room. The Norcadian mind meld, a technique shrouded in mystery and danger, has never been attempted with a human before. The risks are enormous: permanent psychic damage, loss of individual identity, or even death. Earth's leaders, conferring via secure channels, debate the proposal. The stakes are clear. Without this radical step, years of carefully cultivated alien relations could crumble. Humanity stands to lose access to revolutionary Norcadian technology and lucrative trade agreements. "Dr. Thompson, are you aware of the risks?" asks the stern voice of the UN Secretary General through a hastily established video link. "I am," Thompson replies, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "But it's our only chance to bridge this gap in understanding." After tense minutes of deliberation, Earth's leaders give their reluctant approval. As Thompson is led to a secure room for the mind meld preparation, he catches a glimpse of Ambassador Yuna. Her usually composed features are contorted in a mixture of fear and revulsion, a stark reminder of the challenge that lies ahead. The future of human-Norcadian relations now rests on this unprecedented attempt at interspecies comprehension. As the preparations for the mind meld begin, one question hangs in the air. Can the human concept of sexual reproduction be reconciled with Norcadian physiology and culture, or will this revelation spell the end of humanity's newfound place among the stars? As the preparations for the mind meld began, Dr. Thompson felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He sat in a specially designed chair, surrounded by a web of glowing cables that connected him to Ambassador Yuna. The Norcadian's iridescent skin had regained some of its usual luster, but her eyes still held a mixture of fear and revulsion. "Are you sure about this, Dr. Thompson?" asked Zira, Yuna's personal aide. Her petite frame seemed to vibrate with nervous energy, her shimmering blue skin reflecting the pulsing lights of the mind meld equipment. Thompson nodded, his mouth dry. "We have to try. It's our only chance to bridge this gap." As the final connections were made, Thompson caught a glimpse of the UN Secretary General's concerned face on a nearby monitor. The weight of interstellar diplomacy pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe. "Initiating mind meld in 3, 2, 1, announced the lead Norcadian scientist. A jolt of energy surged through Thompson's body, and suddenly his consciousness expanded. He felt Yuna's presence, alien and vast, brushing against his mind. Images and sensations flooded his awareness: the taste of starlight, the sound of gravitational waves, the feeling of photosynthesis. For a moment, it seemed to be working. Thompson's brainwaves synchronized with Yuna's, creating a bridge between their vastly different neural structures. He began to understand the Norcadian perspective on life, reproduction, and the universe itself. But then, something went wrong. Yuna's form began to convulse, emitting a bright, pulsating light. Her mind recoiled from the vivid images of human reproduction, sending shockwaves through their shared mental space. "Terminate the procedure!" Zira shouted, her voice barely audible over the blaring alarms. "No! Wait!" countered a human scientist. "We're on the verge of a breakthrough. We can't stop now." Thompson's mind reeled as it was bombarded with alien concepts. He saw the creation of stars, the birth of planets, and the intricate dance of subatomic particles. His human consciousness struggled to process the flood of information. Suddenly, a loud pop echoed through the room, followed by a shower of sparks from the mind meld equipment. The mental connection between Thompson and Yuna intensified, then violently snapped. Darkness engulfed Thompson. When he regained awareness, he found himself floating in a void, untethered from his physical form. Panic gripped him as he realized he couldn't feel his body. In the embassy, chaos erupted. Medical teams rushed to the unconscious forms of Thompson and Yuna, their bodies exhibiting alarming changes. Thompson's skin had taken on a faint iridescent sheen, while Yuna's form seemed to flicker between her natural state and a more human-like appearance. "What's happening to them?" demanded the UN Secretary General through the video link. Zira, taking charge amidst the pandemonium, ordered a complete lockdown of the embassy. "We don't know yet," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. "But I believe the mind meld has created an unprecedented psychic link between Dr. Thompson and Ambassador Yuna." As human and Norcadian officials argued over the next steps, Thompson and Yuna's minds intertwined in ways no one could have predicted. In the mental realm they now shared, fragments of memories and knowledge swirled around them. Thompson saw flashes of Yuna's childhood on a distant world, felt the exhilaration of her first spaceflight, and experienced the wonder of encountering other sentient species. In turn, Yuna witnessed pivotal moments in human history, felt the warmth of familial love, and understood the complex emotions driving human reproduction. Their merged consciousness expanded and contracted, struggling to find equilibrium between two fundamentally different ways of perceiving reality. Physical laws seemed to bend around them, time losing all meaning in this liminal space. Back in the physical world, tensions between Earth and the Norcadian High Command reached a boiling point. Accusations of sabotage flew back and forth, with threats of military action hanging in the air. Zira, recognizing the gravity of the situation, established a secure communication channel with both Earth and Norcadian authorities. "I propose we allow the mind meld to continue naturally," she said, her voice firm. "Forcing them apart now could cause irreparable damage to both individuals and shatter our alliance." As debate raged among the leaders, Thompson and Yuna's comatose forms continued to change. Thompson's body temperature fluctuated wildly, while Yuna's skin cycled through a rainbow of colors. In their shared mental space, Thompson and Yuna gradually became aware of each other's presence. Their initial fear and revulsion gave way to curiosity and a growing understanding. How do you experience existence?" Thompson's thoughts formed the question. Yuna's response came as a burst of sensations and abstract concepts. Thompson struggled to interpret them, his human mind stretching to encompass alien modes of thought. As their exchange continued, both began to see the beauty and complexity in each other's way of life. The fundamental differences in their biology and culture, which had seemed insurmountable, now appeared as fascinating variations on the theme of life itself. Meanwhile, in the embassy, Zira worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance between human and Norcadian interests. She coordinated with medical teams, reassured panicked officials, and kept a constant vigil over the unconscious forms of Thompson and Yuna. As hours stretched into days, the fate of interstellar diplomacy hung in the balance. The unprecedented mind meld between human and Norcadian held the potential for either a new era of cooperation or a disastrous conflict. In the depths of their shared consciousness, Thompson and Yuna continued their intricate dance of understanding, unaware of the ticking clock in the physical world. Their minds, once so alien to each other, began to find common ground, weaving a tapestry of shared experience that could forever change the relationship between their species. In the depths of their shared consciousness, Thompson and Una continued their intricate dance of understanding, unaware of the ticking clock in the physical world. Their minds, once so alien to each other, began to find common ground, weaving a tapestry of shared experience that could forever change the relationship between their species. As their mental exploration deepened, subtle changes began to manifest in their physical forms. Thompson's skin took on a faint, iridescent sheen, barely noticeable at first but growing more pronounced with each passing hour. His muscles elongated, giving his frame a more lithe appearance. Una's alien contours softened, her skin losing some of its otherworldly luster as it shifted towards a more human-like texture. Zira noticed these changes during her constant vigil over the comatose pair. She immediately alerted the team of human and Norcadian scientists who had been monitoring the situation. "Dr. Rodriguez, you need to see this," Zira called out, her voice tight with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a brilliant human neurobiologist with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, rushed to examine the patients. She ran her scanner over Thompson's body, her brow furrowing as she interpreted the results. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, moving to scan Una. "Their genetic structures are synchronizing. It's as if their bodies are trying to meet halfway between human and Norcadian physiology." The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves through both the scientific community and diplomatic circles. Secretary General Marcus Chen demanded hourly updates on Thompson's condition, his stern face a constant presence on the embassy's communication screens. "We need to know exactly what's happening to our people," Chen insisted during one tense video conference. "The potential here is enormous, but so are the risks." Meanwhile, the Norcadian High Council, led by the imposing figure of Supreme Commander Cax, grew increasingly agitated. Cax's holographic form loomed large in the embassy's main hall, his voice booming with hardly restrained fury. "Return Ambassador Una to us immediately," he demanded, his iridescent skin flashing warning colors, "or face the consequences of your actions." Zira found herself caught in the middle of this interstellar storm. She worked tirelessly, coordinating with the scientific team, placating worried officials, and maintaining a delicate balance between the two species' interests. As days stretched into weeks, Thompson and Una's brainwave patterns began to stabilize. Dr. Rodriguez and her team observed a harmonization of their neural structures, suggesting a level of interspecies compatibility never before seen. "If this continues," Rodriguez explained to Zira during a rare quiet moment, "we might be looking at a breakthrough in interspecies communication. The potential for shared understanding is, well, it's beyond anything we've ever dreamed of." Just as tensions reached a breaking point, with Earth's governments and the Norcadian High Council on the brink of severing ties, Thompson and Una showed signs of emerging from their comatose state. Their awakening was heralded by a surge of energy that coursed through the embassy, temporarily disrupting all electronic systems. As power flickered back to life, medical teams rushed to the patient's sides. Thompson's eyes fluttered open first, their usual brown now tinged with an otherworldly iridescence. He sat up slowly, his movements fluid and graceful, in a way that seemed distinctly unhuman. "Una," he whispered, his voice resonating with an unfamiliar harmonic quality. At the sound of her name, Una stirred. Her eyes opened, revealing pupils that were rounder, more human-like than before. She gazed at Thompson, and an expression of wonder crossed her features, an emotional display unlike anything Zira had ever seen in a Norcadian. "Isaac," Una responded, without moving her lips. The medical team watched in astonishment as Thompson and Una carried on a silent conversation, their expressions changing in response to unspoken words. Dr. Rodriguez approached cautiously, her scanner held out before her. "Dr. Thompson, Ambassador Una, can you understand me?" Thompson turned to her, his iridescent eyes focusing with an intensity that made Rodriguez take a step back. "We understand," he said, his voice overlapping with Una's in perfect synchronization. "We are more than we were." As the initial shock of their awakening subsided, the full extent of Thompson and Una's transformation became apparent. Thompson demonstrated an ability to perceive and manipulate energy fields, creating shimmering patterns in the air with a wave of his hand. Una, in turn, displayed a range of human-like emotions, her face animated in ways that left Zira stunned. The news of their awakening and transformation spread rapidly. Secretary General Chen saw an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation, while Supreme Commander Cax viewed the situation with growing alarm. "This is a chance for true understanding between our species," Chen argued during an emergency session of the UN. Cax's response was swift and harsh. "This abomination threatens the very essence of Norcadian identity. We demand the immediate return of Ambassador Una for examination and treatment." As the political storm raged, Thompson and Una grappled with their new reality. They found themselves drawn to each other, their shared experiences creating a bond that transcended their original species. "What are we now?" Una asked Thompson telepathically, her mental voice tinged with uncertainty. "I don't know," Thompson responded, his thoughts intertwining with hers. "But we're in this together." Zira, watching the pair navigate their transformed existence, recognized both the danger and the potential of the situation. She formulated a plan, one that might satisfy both species' scientific curiosity while providing a structured environment to monitor Thompson and Una's condition. Gathering her courage, Zira approached the communication terminal, ready to present her proposal to Earth and Norcadian authorities. As she prepared to speak, Thompson and Una stood behind her, their transformed forms a living symbol of the unprecedented change that had occurred. The future of human-Norcadian relations hung in the balance, with Thompson and Una at its center. Their journey had only just begun, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. Yet as they stood together, their minds linked and their bodies forever changed, they represented a new possibility, a bridge between two worlds that had once seemed impossibly far apart. As Thompson and Una stood behind Zira, their transformed bodies a testament to the unprecedented change they had undergone, the embassy buzzed with activity. Scientists and diplomats from both species hurried about, preparing for the next phase of this extraordinary situation. Zira's proposal to create a joint human-Norcadian research initiative was met with cautious approval from both sides. Within days, the embassy transformed into a cutting-edge research facility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her sharp eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity, took charge of the human research team. Zira, her tentacles moving with purposeful grace, oversaw the Norcadian contingent. The research focused on three primary areas: the physiological changes in Thompson and Una, their newly acquired telepathic abilities, and the potential applications of their transformation for both species. As part of the study, Thompson and Una underwent a series of rigorous tests designed to push the limits of their new capabilities. During one particularly intense session, Thompson sat in a specially designed chamber, electrodes attached to his temples. Dr. Rodriguez stood nearby, monitoring a bank of screens displaying his brainwave patterns. "Now, Dr. Thompson," Rodriguez instructed, "try to manipulate the energy field around you. Focus on the sensor array to your left." Thompson closed his iridescent eyes, his brow furrowing in concentration. The air around him began to shimmer, tiny motes of light swirling in complex patterns. Suddenly, the entire room flickered, plunging into darkness for a split second before the emergency generators kicked in. "What happened?" Thompson asked, his voice tinged with alarm. Before Rodriguez could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security personnel rushed past the lab, their footsteps echoing in the corridors. In the chaos that followed, a group of armed individuals, led by a stern-faced man with cropped gray hair, infiltrated the embassy. They moved with military precision, quickly subduing the unprepared security forces. "Secure the scientists," the leader barked, his voice hard and commanding. "Find Thompson and the alien." Thompson and Una, still connected by their telepathic link, instantly sensed the danger. Their minds merged, forming a unified consciousness that processed information at an astonishing rate. "We need to act," Una's thoughts resonated in Thompson's mind. "These men are here for us." Thompson nodded, his body tensing for action. "We can use our abilities to stop them. Are you ready?" Una's mental affirmation came with a surge of grit. Together, they moved through the facility with inhuman grace, their enhanced senses allowing them to avoid the intruders. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with the gray-haired leader and two of his men. The man's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with calculating interest. "Dr. Thompson, Ambassador Una," he said, his voice cold and precise. "I'm Colonel Marcus Graves. You'll be coming with us." Thompson raised his hand, focusing his newfound energy manipulation abilities. The air around them crackled with invisible force, and the weapons in the attackers' hands suddenly grew too hot to hold. They dropped their guns with startled cries. Seizing the moment of confusion, Una sprang into action. Her movements were a blur of speed and precision as she disarmed the two henchmen with a series of quick strikes. Before Graves could react, Una had him pinned against the wall, her strength far exceeding that of a normal human. "Who are you?" Una demanded, her voice carrying an unfamiliar edge of human emotion. "Why are you here?" Graves struggled against her grip but found himself completely overpowered. His face contorted with a mixture of fear and disgust. "You're an abomination," he spat. "Both of you. We're here to put an end to this unholy union between species." Thompson stepped forward, his iridescent eyes fixed on Graves. "You're wrong, Colonel. What's happened to us isn't an abomination. It's the key to understanding between our species." As security forces finally regained control of the situation, Thompson and Una worked together to subdue the remaining attackers. Their seamless cooperation and complementary abilities turned the tide quickly, leaving Colonel Graves and his team in custody. In the aftermath of the attack, Thompson and Una found themselves drawn even closer together. The shared experience of danger and their deepening telepathic bond created an intense emotional connection that neither had anticipated. As they stood in the quiet of Thompson's quarters later that night, Una reached out to touch Thompson's face. Her fingers traced the subtle changes in his features, the slight iridescence of his skin. "Isaac," she said softly, her voice carrying a depth of emotion that would have been impossible for her before the transformation. "What's happening between us?" Thompson took her hand in his, marveling at how natural it felt despite their physiological differences. "I don't know, Una, but I feel it too. This connection, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced." Their eyes met, and in that moment, the barriers between human and Norcadian seemed to dissolve. Thompson leaned in, drawn by an irresistible force, and their lips met in a kiss that sent shockwaves of sensation through both their bodies. As they separated, both gasping slightly, the reality of their situation came crashing back. The attack had exposed the vulnerability of their position and the potential dangers of their ongoing transformation. "We can't stay here," Thompson said, his mind racing with possibilities. "It's not safe for us or for the research team." Una nodded, her thoughts aligning with his through their telepathic link. "We need a neutral ground, somewhere we can continue our work without interference from either side." As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Zira entered, her tentacles moving in patterns that suggested deep thought and concern. "Dr. Thompson, Ambassador Una," she said, her voice steady despite the stress of recent events. "I have a proposal for you both. It's time we took this research to a more secure location." "Location," Zira said, her eyes glowing with drive. "I've been in contact with both Earth and Norcadian authorities. We've agreed on a neutral site for continued research." Thompson and Una exchanged a glance, their thoughts intertwining. "Where?" Thompson asked, his voice resonating with a hint of Una's harmonics. "A planet designated as Outpost Zeta," Zira explained. "It's remote, uninhabited, and equidistant from both our worlds. We can continue our work there without interference." Within days, preparations were underway. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, handpicked for her expertise in xenobiology, led the human contingent. As they boarded the interstellar transport, Thompson felt a mix of anticipation and unease. Una's presence beside him was a constant comfort, their shared consciousness a bridge between two worlds. The journey to Outpost Zeta passed in a blur of stars and void. When they finally emerged from faster-than-light travel, a blue-green orb filled the viewport. As they descended through the atmosphere, Thompson gasped at the sight of a vast alien forest stretching to the horizon. The research facility, nestled within a clearing, was a marvel of engineering. Sleek human architecture blended seamlessly with the organic curves of Norcadian design. As they stepped off the transport, the air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flora. "Welcome to your new home," Dr. Rodriguez said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's get to work." The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Thompson and Una underwent a battery of tests, their unique physiologies providing a wealth of data. As they worked, their bond deepened, transcending the boundaries of their original species. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the alien forest, Thompson felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. He turned to Una, marveling at how her features had softened, become more expressive. "Una," he whispered, reaching out to touch her face. "I've never felt anything like this before." She leaned into his touch, her eyes shimmering with an intensity that took his breath away. "Nor have I, Isaac. We are something new, you and I." Their lips met, and the world around them seemed to fade away. The kiss was electric, sending waves of sensation through their transformed bodies. As they separated, both gasping slightly, they realized that this was more than just a physical attraction. Their minds had merged on a level so profound, it defied description. The following morning, as they reported for their daily tests, Dr. Rodriguez noticed a change in their demeanor. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing, making a note in her datapad. As weeks passed, the research team made significant progress. Dr. Rodriguez called a meeting to share their latest findings. "We've identified the mechanism behind the transformation," she announced, her voice brimming with excitement. "It's a rare isotope, present in trace amounts in both Earth's atmosphere and Norcadian biotechnology. It acts as a catalyst for genetic synchronization." The implications were staggering. Thompson and Una exchanged a look, their minds racing with possibilities. "Does this mean—" Thompson began. "Yes," Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. "Theoretically, we could induce controlled transformations. Voluntary human-Norcadian hybridization might be possible." The news spread quickly, despite their efforts to contain it. Within days, tensions on both Earth and Norcadia reached a boiling point. Secretary General Chen faced mounting pressure from various factions, demanding access to the technology. Meanwhile, on Norcadia, Supreme Commander Cax struggled to quell growing unrest among conservatives who saw the research as a threat to their way of life. As the political storm raged light years away, life on Outpost Zeta continued. Thompson and Una's relationship blossomed, their unique bond growing stronger with each passing day. They found comfort in each other's company, exploring the boundaries of their new existence together. One night, as they lay entwined in Thompson's quarters, a sudden chill ran down his spine. He sat up abruptly, his iridescent eyes scanning the darkness. "What is it?" Una asked, instantly alert. "I'm not sure," Thompson replied, his voice tense. "Something feels wrong." At that moment, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds flickered to life, showing shadowy figures moving through the corridors with military precision. "Intruders!" Una gasped, her mind merging with Thompson's as they assessed the threat. They sprang into action, their movements fluid and synchronized. As they raced through the facility, they encountered Dr. Rodriguez, frantically working at a computer terminal. "We're under attack," she said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Norcadian commandos. They're after you and the research data." Thompson nodded grimly. "We'll hold them off. You secure the data." As they moved to confront the intruders, Thompson reached out with his energy manipulation abilities, disrupting the Norcadians' cloaking technology. Una's enhanced strength and agility proved invaluable as they engaged in hand-to-hand combat. The battle raged through the facility, neither side gaining a clear advantage. Suddenly, a series of explosions rocked the building. Thompson stumbled, realizing the Norcadians had planted charges throughout the base. "They're trying to destroy everything," Una's thoughts echoed in his mind. Thompson gritted his teeth, focusing his energy manipulation abilities to contain the explosions. The strain was immense, pushing him to the limits of his transformed physiology. As he felt his consciousness slipping, Una's presence flooded his mind, lending him strength. Together, they managed to stabilize the energy field around the facility, preventing total destruction. But the effort left them both drained and vulnerable. As the dust settled, they found themselves surrounded by Norcadian commandos. The leader, a stern-faced officer, stepped forward. "This ends now," he growled, raising his weapon. Thompson and Una stood their ground, their hands clasped tightly together. Whatever came next, they would face it as one. As one. Their bond, forged through transformation and shared experience, gave them strength even in the face of overwhelming odds. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the corridor. Thompson and Una shielded their eyes, their enhanced senses reeling from the intensity. When the glare faded, they found themselves surrounded by a shimmering energy field. "What's happening?" Thompson asked, his voice tight with tension. Before Una could respond, the floor beneath them began to vibrate. The air crackled with energy, and in a flash, they were no longer in the facility on Outpost Zeta. They materialized in a dimly lit chamber, its walls curved and metallic. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before them, her face a mixture of relief and urgency. "Thank goodness you're safe," she said, hurrying toward them. "We've initiated emergency protocols. The evacuation is underway." Thompson and Una exchanged glances, their minds synchronizing as they processed the sudden change in their situation. Through their telepathic link, they shared a moment of gratitude for their narrow escape. "Where are we?" Una asked, her voice carrying a hint of human inflection. "We're on an asteroid in a remote belt," Dr. Rodriguez explained, leading them through a curved corridor. "It's been converted into a secret research facility. This will be our new base of operations." As they walked, Thompson noticed the seamless blend of human and Norcadian technology around them. The facility was a testament to what their two species could achieve together. "What about the others?" Thompson inquired, concern evident in his iridescent eyes. "The remaining scientists are dispersing to other hidden locations across the galaxy," Rodriguez replied. "We can't risk keeping all our research in one place." They entered a large circular room filled with advanced equipment. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the status of various systems and the positions of potential threats. "We need to lay low for a while," Rodriguez continued. "The information about human Norcadian hybridization has leaked. Both Earth and Norcadia are in turmoil." Thompson and Una absorbed this news, their hands unconsciously intertwining. The weight of their responsibility settled upon them, but so did a sense of possibility. As the days passed, they settled into their new routine. The asteroid base became a sanctuary where they could continue their research without interference. Thompson and Una found themselves drawn even closer together, their unique physiological compatibility leading to intimate encounters that blended human and Norcadian characteristics in ways never before experienced. One morning, Una woke to find Thompson staring at her in wonder. "Your skin," he whispered, reaching out to touch her face. "It's changing." Una examined herself in a mirror, marveling at the subtle iridescence that now played across her skin. "And look at you," she said, turning back to Thompson. His body now bore faint, swirling patterns, reminiscent of Norcadian bioluminescence. Their transformations continued to evolve in unexpected ways. Una discovered she could now process human foods, savoring the complex flavors and textures that had once been foreign to her. Thompson, in turn, developed the ability to communicate through bioluminescent skin patterns, a trait common to Norcadians. As they explored these new facets of their changed physiology, their bond deepened. One evening, as they lay entwined in their quarters, Una felt a strange flutter in her abdomen. She sat up abruptly, her eyes wide with surprise. "Isaac," she said, her voice trembling. I think I might be pregnant." Thompson's mind reeled at the implications. "But that's impossible," he breathed, even as he placed a gentle hand on Una's stomach. "Isn't it?" They rushed to the medical bay, where Dr. Rodriguez confirmed their suspicions. The news sent shockwaves through the small research team. An unprecedented hybrid pregnancy, crossing the boundaries between human and Norcadian biology, was now a reality. As Rodriguez and her team studied this miraculous development, they detected unusual energy signatures emanating from Una's womb. The hybrid fetus appeared to be generating a unique form of energy, combining elements of both human and Norcadian physiology. "This could be the key," Thompson mused, his eyes alight with excitement as he reviewed the data. "The key to unlocking new possibilities in interspecies relations and technological advancements." Their elation was short-lived. The asteroid base's sensors suddenly blared to life, detecting multiple approaching vessels. Both human and Norcadian forces had discovered their location. "We're out of time," Rodriguez said, her face grim as she pulled up the sensor readings. "We need to make a decision. Do we stay and defend our research, or do we run?" Thompson and Una shared a look, their telepathic bond intensifying. In that moment, they experienced vivid shared visions of possible futures. They glimpsed the potential beauty and danger of their child's existence, reinforcing their commitment to protecting their unborn hybrid and continuing their groundbreaking research. "We stay," they said in unison, their voices resolute. Thompson immediately set to work, utilizing his enhanced energy manipulation abilities to modify the asteroid base's systems. He created a series of energy fields designed to confuse and misdirect the approaching forces. Meanwhile, Una drew on her diplomatic experience and newfound human intuition to devise a plan. "We need to try to communicate with them," she insisted. "If we can make them understand what we've discovered, there might be a chance for peace." As the human and Norcadian ships closed in on the asteroid, Thompson and Una prepared for a confrontation that could determine the fate of their research, their unborn child, and the future of human-Norcadian relations. They stood side by side in the command center, their transformed bodies a living testament to the potential for cooperation and understanding between their species. The first ships entered the asteroid's vicinity, their weapons primed. Thompson activated his energy fields, causing several vessels to veer off course, their sensors scrambled. Una opened a communication channel, her voice steady as she began to speak. "This is Ambassador Una of Norcadia and Dr. Isaac Thompson of Earth. We come to you not as representatives of our individual species, but as something new, something that could change everything. Everything for both our species." As Una's voice echoed through the communication channels, the approaching ships slowed their advance. Thompson's energy fields pulsed around the asteroid, creating a shimmering barrier that distorted sensors and caused several vessels to veer off course. "Energy signature detected," a technician reported, her eyes wide. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Thompson nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration as he manipulated the complex web of energy surrounding their base. "It's working," he said, his voice strained, "but I don't know how long I can maintain it." Una placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her touch sending a surge of strength through their bond. She turned back to the communication panel, her voice steady as she continued her message. "To the forces of Earth and Norcadia, I implore you to listen. What we have discovered here is beyond anything either of our species could have imagined." She paused, taking a deep breath before revealing their most closely guarded secret. "I am carrying a child, a hybrid of human and Norcadian DNA." The announcement sent shockwaves through both fleets. On the command ship of the human forces, Colonel Victor Steele leaned forward, his weathered face a mask of disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Similarly, aboard the Norcadian flagship, Major Zara's antennae twitched with agitation. "This changes everything," she hissed to her second-in-command. Taking advantage of the momentary confusion, Thompson channeled his energy into the base's holographic systems. A massive display burst to life in the space surrounding the asteroid, filling the void with swirling data streams and three-dimensional models of their research. "This is what we've accomplished," Thompson's voice boomed across the communication channels. "A breakthrough that could revolutionize both our species." The display showed the intricate details of their hybridization research, including real-time data from Una's pregnancy. The fetus's unique energy signature pulsed in vibrant colors, captivating the attention of scientists and soldiers alike. As the opposing forces grappled with this new information, a sleek vessel emerged from the depths of space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comms. "This is Dr. Rodriguez of the Interspecies Scientific Cooperative. I propose a compromise." Her arrival shifted the dynamic of the standoff. Rodriguez outlined her proposal for joint human-Norcadian supervision of the research, with Thompson and Una retaining control of the project. The suggestions sparked heated debates among both fleets. "We can't let this opportunity slip away," argued a human science officer aboard Steele's ship. The potential threat is too great, countered a Norcadian tactical expert on Zara's vessel. As the debate raged, Yuna suddenly doubled over, gasping in pain. Thompson was at her side in an instant, his eyes wide with concern. "What's wrong?" Before she could answer, a surge of energy erupted from Yuna's abdomen. The hybrid fetus, sensing the external threat, unleashed a powerful energy field that expanded rapidly outward. Alarms blared across all ships as weapons systems suddenly went offline. "What's happening?" Steele demanded, furiously tapping at his now-dead control panel. Zara's voice rang out over the emergency channels. "All ships, report status." The energy field pulsed once more before dissipating, leaving both attackers and defenders in stunned silence. Thompson and Yuna exchanged a look of awe and trepidation, realizing the true extent of their child's potential. Seizing the moment, Thompson activated the communication array once more. "You've seen what our research has accomplished," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "We offer to share our findings with both Earth and Norcadia, but on one condition. We continue our work independently, protected by a neutral council with representatives from both species." The proposal hung in the air as leaders on both sides weighed their options. Suddenly, instruments across all ships began registering strange phenomena in the surrounding space. The hybrid fetus's energy field fluctuated, causing ripples in the fabric of reality itself. "These readings are off the charts," Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "Whatever's happening with that child, it's changing the very nature of space around us." The urgency of the situation became clear to all parties involved. The potential risks and benefits of allowing the pregnancy to continue under controlled conditions could no longer be ignored. Colonel Steele's gruff voice broke the tense silence. "This is bigger than our original mission parameters. We need to think about the long-term implications." Major Zara nodded in agreement, her antennae twitching thoughtfully. "The knowledge we could gain from this research, it could change everything." As the leaders of the opposing forces began to consider the offer, Thompson and Yuna stood side by side in the command center of their asteroid base. Their hands intertwined, they felt the pulse of their unborn child's energy flowing between them. "Whatever happens," Yuna whispered, her eyes meeting Thompson's, "we face it together." Thompson nodded, his gaze fixed on the assembled fleets visible through the viewport. The fate of their research, their child, and possibly the future of human-Norcadian relations hung in the balance. As they waited for a response, the energy emanating from Yuna's womb continued to fluctuate, a constant reminder of the unprecedented nature of their situation and the challenges that lay ahead. The tension in the asteroid base's command center was palpable as everyone waited for a response from the assembled fleets. Suddenly, a crackling voice came through the communication array. "This is Colonel Steele of the Earth Forces," the gruff voice announced. "We've conferred with our Norcadian counterparts and we're willing to negotiate." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Thompson squeezed Yuna's hand, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed both fleets. "I propose a compromise. We continue our research under joint human-Norcadian supervision, with myself serving as a neutral mediator." After hours of intense negotiations, an agreement was reached. The asteroid base would be expanded to accommodate representatives from both species, with separate living quarters for human and Norcadian personnel. As weeks passed, the base buzzed with activity. Construction drones swarmed outside, adding new modules and reinforcing existing structures. Inside, Thompson and Yuna found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of scientific curiosity and diplomatic maneuvering. Yuna's pregnancy progressed at an alarming rate, her abdomen swelling visibly day by day. Thompson worked tirelessly alongside the expanded research team, monitoring the fetus's unique energy signatures and tracking its rapid development. One morning, as Thompson reviewed the latest data, he noticed an alarming spike in the energy readings. He rushed to the medical bay, where he found Yuna doubled over in pain, her skin flickering with intense bioluminescence. "What's happening?" he asked, panic rising in his voice as he reached for her. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been examining Yuna, shook her head. "Her body is struggling to adapt to the fetus's changing energy output. We need to stabilize her condition, fast. The medical team sprang into action, combining human medical techniques with Norcadian biotechnology. Thompson stood by, feeling helpless as he watched Una writhe in agony. Suddenly, he felt a pull, an instinctive urge to touch her. As his hand made contact with Una's arm, he gasped. He could feel the excess energy flowing into him, coursing through his transformed physiology. I can absorb it, he said, his voice filled with wonder. The energy, I can redirect it. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened. Of course, your hybrid physiology must allow you to act as a conduit. This could be the key to stabilizing the pregnancy. Over the next few days, Thompson remained in constant physical contact with Una, absorbing and redirecting the excess energy produced by their rapidly developing child. The forced proximity only served to deepen their bond, their thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. As Una's condition stabilized, the research team made significant breakthroughs in understanding human Norcadian hybridization. They identified key genetic markers that allowed for successful integration between the two species. Dr. Rodriguez excitedly shared their latest findings with Thompson and Una. We've developed a prototype compatibility serum that could potentially allow other humans and Norcadians to undergo controlled transformations similar to yours. The news of these advancements spread quickly, and not without consequence. Reports from Earth and Norcadia told of growing unrest. Protests erupted on both planets, with some groups demanding access to the hybridization technology and others violently opposing any form of interspecies integration. Thompson and Una watched the footage with growing concern. We never intended for this to cause such chaos, Una said softly, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Before Thompson could respond, an alarm blared through the base. They rushed to the command center, where a technician was frantically working at a console. Unidentified vessel approaching, the technician reported. It's not matching any known human or Norcadian configurations. As the mysterious ship drew closer, a message crackled through the communication array. Greetings, sentients of Earth and Norcadia. We are representatives of the Galactic Consortium, an interstellar organization dedicated to fostering cooperation between species across the galaxy. The command center fell silent as the implications of this revelation sank in. Thompson and Una exchanged a look of mingled excitement and apprehension. We have been observing your hybridization research with great interest, the voice continued. We believe it may hold the key to resolving long-standing conflicts between various species in our consortium. As the consortium ship maneuvered into position near the asteroid base, Thompson felt a sudden surge of energy from Una. She gasped, clutching her stomach. Isaac, she said, her voice trembling, I think it's time. The base's systems began to flicker and overload as waves of energy pulsed from Una's body. Thompson realized with a jolt of fear that the birth of their hybrid child could trigger a cataclysmic event, potentially affecting both human and Norcadian space. As alarms blared and the research team scrambled to prepare for the impending birth, Thompson held Una close, his mind racing. They stood at the precipice of a cosmic event that could reshape the future of multiple species across the galaxy. With the Galactic Consortium waiting just outside and their child about to enter the world, Thompson knew that every decision they made in the coming hours would have far-reaching consequences. The energy surges intensified, and Thompson felt the familiar pull of his child's power. He braced himself, ready to channel the energy as he had done for weeks. But this time, he sensed something different, a new resonance, a harmony he hadn't felt before. As Una's labor began in earnest, the very fabric of space around the asteroid base began to distort, creating a shimmering bubble of altered reality. The Galactic Consortium ship maintained its position, its sensors undoubtedly recording every moment of this unprecedented event. Thompson locked eyes with Una, their bond stronger than ever as they prepared to face the unknown together. Whatever the outcome, they knew their child's birth would mark the beginning of a new era for humanity, Norcadians, and perhaps the entire galaxy. Galaxy. The shimmering bubble of altered reality expanded, enveloping the asteroid base and the surrounding ships in its ethereal glow. Thompson felt a surge of energy course through his body as he channeled the power emanating from Yuna. The medical team, led by Dr. Rodriguez, rushed to prepare the specialized birthing chamber they had engineered for this very moment. "We need to move her now," Dr. Rodriguez commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "The energy levels are becoming critical." As they guided Yuna to the birthing chamber, the base's systems flickered and alarms blared. The Galactic Consortium ship maintained its position just outside the energy field, its presence both reassuring and unsettling. Captain Zalos's voice crackled through the communication array. "We're detecting massive energy fluctuations. How can we assist?" Dr. Rodriguez hesitated for a moment before responding. "We could use your advanced medical technology, if you're willing to share it." There was a brief pause before Captain Zelos replied, "Understood. Sending over our medical team and equipment now." As the consortium's sleek shuttlecraft docked with the asteroid base, Thompson focused on maintaining the protective energy field around Yuna. He could feel the power building within her, threatening to overwhelm them both. The next few hours passed in a blur of frenetic activity. The combined efforts of the human, Norcadian, and consortium medical teams worked in perfect synchronization, their differences set aside in the face of this unprecedented event. Yuna's cries of pain echoed through the birthing chamber as contractions racked her body. Thompson stood by her side, one hand clasped in hers, the other outstretched as he continued to channel the excess energy. "You're doing great," he whispered, his voice strained from the effort of maintaining the energy field. "Just a little longer." Suddenly, Yuna's back arched, and she let out a primal scream. A blinding flash of light filled the room, accompanied by a pulse of energy that sent everyone staggering backward. As the light faded, a new sound filled the air, the cry of a newborn child. Dr. Rodriguez, her hair disheveled and her face etched with exhaustion, held up a tiny glowing infant. "It's a girl," she announced, her voice filled with wonder. Thompson and Yuna exchanged a look of pure joy and awe as their daughter was placed in Yuna's arms. The child's skin shimmered with a soft, pulsating light, a perfect blend of human and Norcadian features. "Nova," Yuna whispered, her voice hoarse. "Her name is Nova." As if responding to her name, Nova opened her eyes, revealing irises that swirled with colors neither human nor Norcadian. In that instant, another pulse of energy radiated from the child, more powerful than anything they had experienced before. The base's systems went dark, plunging them into momentary darkness before emergency power kicked in. Outside, the consortium ship and the assembled human and Norcadian fleets drifted aimlessly, their systems temporarily disabled by the energy surge. As the minutes ticked by and systems slowly came back online, Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened as she studied the readouts on her tablet. "This is impossible," she muttered. "What is it?" Thompson asked, his arm protectively around Yuna and Nova. "The energy signature from Nova," Dr. Rodriguez explained, her voice filled with excitement and disbelief. "It's altered the very fabric of space-time around the asteroid. We're in some kind of hybrid zone." As if to confirm her words, Thompson suddenly found himself acutely aware of every Norcadian on the base. He could sense their thoughts, their emotions, as clearly as if they were his own. Glancing at Yuna, he saw the same realization dawning on her face. "I can understand them," she whispered, referring to the human medical staff. "Not just their words, but their very essence." Before they could fully process this new development, a priority message came through from Earth. Secretary General Marcus Chen's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression a mix of concern and barely suppressed excitement. "Dr. Thompson, Ambassador Yuna," he began, his voice tense. "We've just received reports of your child's birth. The energy pulse was detected across half the galaxy. The Norcadian High Command is demanding answers, and our own military is on high alert. We need to know, what exactly have you created?" As Thompson opened his mouth to respond, another alert sounded. A fleet of unidentified ships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the system, their intentions unknown. Captain Zalos's voice came through the comm system once more. "Dr. Thompson, we have a situation developing. Our long-range scans have detected two separate groups converging on your location. One appears to be a human extremist faction, the other Norcadian. Neither looks friendly. Thompson and Una exchanged a worried glance. Their moment of joy was short-lived as the reality of their situation came crashing down upon them. They had created something miraculous, but in doing so, they had also painted a target on themselves and their newborn daughter. "We need to expand the hybrid zone," Thompson said, his mind racing. "It's our only chance to show everyone the potential benefits of our work." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, already moving towards her research station. "I'll get the team on it immediately, but we'll need time." As the asteroid base buzzed with renewed activity, Thompson looked down at Nova, her tiny form glowing softly in Una's arms. He knew that the decisions they made in the coming hours would shape not only their fate, but potentially the future of multiple species across the galaxy. With a deep breath, he turned to face the view screen, ready to address the leaders of Earth and Norcadia. The greatest challenge of their lives lay ahead, but with Nova's birth, they had been given a chance to forge a new path for all sentient beings. They couldn't afford to fail. Time was of the essence. Thompson turned to Dr. Rodriguez, his expression resolute. "We need to expand the hybrid zone immediately. It's our best chance to demonstrate the potential of our work and prevent further conflict." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, her fingers already flying across her tablet. "I'll mobilize the research team. We'll need to modify the energy amplifiers to project Nova's unique signature." As the base hummed with renewed activity, Thompson and Una cradled their newborn daughter, her tiny form still pulsating with soft light. They shared a silent moment of understanding before Una spoke. "I'll coordinate with the Norcadian staff," she said, her voice tinged with purpose. "We'll need their expertise to stabilize the expanded field." Thompson nodded, gently transferring Nova to Una's arms. He was about to respond when alarms blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing in warning. Captain Zelos's voice crackled over the comm system, urgency evident in his tone. "Dr. Thompson, we have multiple bogies incoming. Two separate groups, one human, one Norcadian. Neither appears friendly." Thompson's heart raced as he processed the information. "Understood, Captain. We're working on a solution. Can you buy us some time?" "We'll do our best," Zelos replied, "but I strongly advise preparing for the worst." As if on cue, the base shuddered violently. Distant explosions echoed through the corridors, and the lights flickered ominously. "Security breach in Sectors 3 and 7, a technician shouted from across the command center. Thompson's blood ran cold as he realized the implications. "They're already here," he whispered, meeting Una's worried gaze. Dr. Rodriguez approached, her face pale but determined. "The amplifier is ready, but we need to get to the central chamber to activate it." Thompson nodded, his mind racing. "Una, take Nova to the secure nursery. I'll escort Dr. Rodriguez to the central chamber." As they prepared to separate, the base rocked with another explosion, closer this time. The sound of gunfire echoed from nearby corridors. Thompson and Dr. Rodriguez navigated through the chaos, dodging panicked staff and sparking conduits. They reached the central chamber just as a group of black-clad figures rounded the corner, weapons raised. "Evelyn Frost," Thompson growled, recognizing the leader of the human purist faction. Frost's eyes narrowed. "Step aside, Thompson. We're here for the abomination you call a child." Before Thompson could respond, a blast of energy surged from behind him, knocking the intruders off their feet. He turned to see Dr. Rodriguez standing at the amplifier controls, her hand on the activation switch. "It's working!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. The air around them began to shimmer, the hybrid zone expanding rapidly beyond the confines of the asteroid base. Thompson felt a surge of hope as the energy field engulfed the approaching ships. In the nursery, Una held Nova close, her body tensed for action. She sensed the change in the air as the hybrid zone expanded, feeling the sudden influx of human emotions and sensations. On board the lead Norcadian ship, General Vox staggered as unfamiliar sensations flooded his consciousness. His crew reacted similarly, their once certain actions now hesitant and confused. Back in the central chamber, Thompson and Dr. Rodriguez worked feverishly to stabilize the expanded field. The human purists, temporarily stunned by the energy surge, began to stir. "We need to broadcast a message," Thompson said urgently, "to all ships and factions. We have to make them understand what's happening." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "Channels open. You're live, Dr. Thompson." Thompson took a deep breath, his voice ringing out across the comm systems of every ship within range. "This is Dr. Isaac Thompson. What you're experiencing is the result of our hybridization research. We invite representatives from all factions to enter the zone and experience its effects firsthand. This is our chance for true understanding between our species." As his words echoed across space, Thompson saw Evelyn Frost and her team shake off the effects of the energy blast. They raised their weapons, fingers on triggers. Suddenly, a new group of figures materialized in the chamber, the sleek, advanced forms of Galactic Consortium peacekeepers. They moved with incredible speed, engaging the human purists in close combat. Thompson ducked behind a console as energy blasts crisscrossed the room. He looked up to see Dr. Rodriguez still working at the amplifier controls, her face a mask of concentration despite the chaos around her. "Elena!" he shouted over the din of battle. "We need to stabilize the field." She nodded, making a series of rapid adjustments. The air shimmered again, and Thompson felt a wave of calm wash over him. He could sense the minds of the Norcadians on the approaching ships, their confusion giving way to curiosity and, surprisingly, empathy. A priority message flashed on the main screen. Secretary General Marcus Chen's face appeared, his expression a mix of concern and cautious hope. "Dr. Thompson, we've received your broadcast. The Norcadian High Command and I have agreed to send delegations to your location. But be warned, this situation remains highly volatile." As Thompson processed this news, he heard a commotion from the corridor leading to the nursery. His heart leapt into his throat as he realized Evelyn Frost had slipped away during the chaos. "Una," he whispered, their telepathic bond flaring to life. "She's coming for Nova." Without hesitation, Thompson sprinted from the central chamber, leaving Dr. Rodriguez under the protection of the Consortium peacekeepers. He raced through the damaged corridors of the asteroid base, his enhanced senses guiding him towards his family. As he approached the nursery, he heard Una's voice, tense but controlled. "Stay back, Frost. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Thompson rounded the corner to see Evelyn Frost standing in the nursery doorway, a high-tech weapon trained on Una and Nova. The child began to glow brightly, pulses of energy radiating from her tiny form. "It ends now," Frost snarled, her finger tightening on the trigger. Time seemed to slow as Thompson lunged forward, his mind reaching out to Una and Nova through their shared bond. As Frost's weapon discharged, a blinding flash filled the corridor, and the very fabric of reality around them began to warp and twist, shift and contort. In that instant, Thompson's mind connected with Una's, their shared bond intensifying in the face of danger. Without a word, they formulated a plan. Thompson thrust out his hand, summoning every ounce of his newfound abilities. A shimmering energy field coalesced around Nova, deflecting Frost's shot at the last possible second. The energy beam ricocheted off the barrier, scorching the wall beside them. Seizing the moment of confusion, Una sprang into action. Her Norcadian strength, amplified by the hybrid zone, propelled her forward with inhuman speed. Before Frost could react, Una's hand clamped down on the weapon, crushing it effortlessly. Frost's eyes widened in shock as Una wrenched the mangled device from her grasp. "This ends now," Una said, her voice resonating with a power that seemed to reverberate through the very walls of the base. Thompson rushed to his family's side, scooping Nova into his arms. The child's tiny form pulsed with energy, growing brighter by the second. As relief washed over him, Thompson suddenly felt a surge of power emanating from his daughter. The corridor around them began to warp and shift, the metal walls taking on an organic, almost fluid quality. Thompson stumbled as the floor beneath his feet transformed from cold steel to something reminiscent of Norcadian bioarchitecture. "What's happening?" Una gasped, steadying herself against a wall that now felt warm and alive under her touch. Before Thompson could respond, Alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm system, tinged with panic. Thompson, the hybrid zone is destabilizing. Nova's energy output is causing rapid fluctuations in the field. As if to emphasize her point, the corridor suddenly snapped back to its original form, only to begin shifting again moments later. Thompson felt a wave of nausea as his senses struggled to adapt to the constantly changing environment. We need to get to the central chamber, Thompson shouted over the cacophony of alarms and groaning metal. He turned to Yuna, who had a firm grip on the subdued frost. Bring her. We can't risk letting her escape in this chaos. They made their way through the transforming base, navigating corridors that alternated between human and Norcadian designs. Around them, they could hear the panicked shouts of both species as they grappled with the shifting reality. In the central chamber, Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked feverishly at the amplifier controls. The device sparked and sputtered, clearly struggling to maintain stability. Elena, Thompson called out as they entered. What's the situation? Dr. Rodriguez looked up, her face pale with stress. It's Nova. Her energy signature has somehow merged with the amplifier. We're caught in a feedback loop that's tearing apart the fabric of space-time around us. Thompson felt his heart sink as he processed her words. How do we stop it? Dr. Rodriguez hesitated, her eyes darting to the glowing child in Thompson's arms. We need to neutralize Nova's energy output. Temporarily, she added quickly, seeing the look of horror on Thompson and Yuna's faces. Before they could respond, a priority message flashed on the main screen. General Vox's face appeared, his usually stoic features twisted with a mix of confusion and unfamiliar emotions. Dr. Thompson, he began, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. I'm ordering my fleet to stand down. These sensations, this empathy, I never knew. We must find a way to preserve this connection. As Vox's words sank in, another face appeared on the screen. Captain Zelos of the Galactic Consortium. We're detecting critical instabilities in your sector, he reported. I propose an immediate ceasefire. The consortium offers our full support and resources to stabilize the situation. Thompson exchanged a glance with Yuna, a flicker of hope kindling in their hearts. But that hope was quickly tempered as Dr. Rodriguez approached, her expression grave. Isaac, Yuna, she said softly, there's only one way to stop this crisis. We need to place Nova in a stasis chamber. It will suppress her energy emissions, but... She trailed off, unable to meet their eyes. But what? Yuna pressed, her arms tightening protectively around their daughter. Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. It could affect her development, possibly even her unique abilities. We don't know for certain. Thompson felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath him. He looked down at Nova, her tiny face serene despite the chaos she had inadvertently caused. The weight of their decision pressed down on him, threatening to crush his perseverance. Yuna's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. Through their bond, he felt her turmoil, mirroring his own. But beneath the fear and anguish, he sensed a steely tenacity. We have to do it, Yuna said, her voice barely above a whisper. For everyone's sake. Thompson nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He gently placed Nova in Dr. Rodriguez's arms, his heart breaking as he watched her carry their daughter to the hastily prepared stasis chamber. As the chamber sealed shut, a pulse of energy radiated outward. The hybrid zone stabilized, the rapid transformations slowing and then ceasing altogether. A hush fell over the central chamber, broken only by the soft hum of equipment. Secretary General Marcus Chen's voice came through the comm system, heavy with the weight of the moment. Dr. Thompson, Ambassador Yuna, on behalf of Earth, I thank you for your sacrifice. We stand ready to begin negotiations for a peaceful resolution. Thompson squared his shoulders, drawing strength from Yuna's presence at his side. As representatives from Earth, Norcadia, and the Galactic Consortium began to arrive, he knew that their greatest challenge lay ahead. The fate of two species and their extraordinary daughter hung in the balance. With one last look at Nova's sleeping form in the stasis chamber, Thompson and Yuna turned to face the assembled delegates. The time had come to forge a new future, one built on understanding and cooperation. As they stepped forward to address the gathered representatives, the air around them hummed with possibility, the hybrid zone a testament to what they could achieve together. As the delegates gathered in the central chamber, Thompson and Una stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the stasis pod containing their daughter. The negotiations that followed were intense and often heated, but a fragile peace had been established. Now, months later, they faced their greatest challenge yet. Dr. Rodriguez approached them, her face a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "We're ready to begin the revival process," she said softly. "Are you prepared?" Thompson squeezed Una's hand, feeling her tension through their bond. "As ready as we'll ever be," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil of emotions within him. They followed Dr. Rodriguez to a specially designed chamber, a marvel of human, Norcadian, and consortium technology. The stasis pod containing Nova was carefully transferred to the center of the room, surrounded by a complex array of equipment. As the revival sequence began, the air in the chamber seemed to thicken with anticipation. Thompson and Una watched, hearts pounding, as the pod's opaque surface slowly became transparent. Through the clearing mist, they caught their first glimpse of their daughter in months. A collective gasp filled the room. Nova had changed dramatically during her time in stasis. No longer an infant, she appeared to be a young child of about 5 years old. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, shifting between human and Norcadian tones. As the pod opened with a soft hiss, Nova's eyes fluttered open. Thompson felt his breath catch in his throat as he saw those eyes, deep pools that seemed to hold the very essence of the cosmos within them. Nova sat up slowly, her movements graceful and controlled. She looked around the room, taking in the faces of her parents and the assembled scientists with a calm curiosity that belied her young age. "Mama? Papa?" Her voice was clear and melodious, carrying an undertone that seemed to resonate with the very air around them. Una stepped forward, her arms outstretched. "We're here, Nova. We're right here." As Nova embraced her parents, a soft, pulsating light filled the room. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened as she studied the readings on her instruments. "Incredible," she breathed. "Her energy signature, it's stabilizing on its own. She's naturally generating a hybrid zone, but without any of the destructive effects we encountered before." Thompson looked up, his scientific curiosity piqued despite the emotional moment. "What do you mean, Elena?" Dr. Rodriguez gestured to the holographic display surrounding them. "See for yourself. The field Nova's generating is perfectly balanced. It's enhancing the best aspects of both human and Norcadian physiologies within its range." As if to demonstrate, Nova slipped from her parents' arms and took her first steps in the chamber. With each movement, the energy field around her shifted and adapted, creating a harmonious blend of the two species' characteristics. Una's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Isaac," she said urgently, "are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Thompson nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Integration hubs," he said. "We could use Nova's energy signature as a template to create stable hybrid zones throughout both our territories." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as Thompson and Una presented their proposal to the assembled delegates. The idea of creating neutral zones where humans and Norcadians could interact freely, fostering understanding and cooperation, was met with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "And you're certain these integration hubs would be safe?" General Vox asked, his voice gruff but tinged with curiosity. "As safe as we can make them," Thompson assured him. "We'd start small, just 3 hubs to begin with. One on Earth, one on Norcadia, and one on a neutral planet." The debate raged on, with some delegates expressing concern about the potential risks of spreading Nova's influence, while others saw it as the key to lasting peace. Finally, after hours of intense discussion, a compromise was reached. "Very well," Secretary General Chen announced, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. "We will proceed with the pilot program. 3 integration hubs, as proposed by Dr. Thompson and Ambassador Una." As the delegates dispersed to begin preparations, Thompson and Una turned their attention back to Nova. Their daughter sat quietly in a corner of the room, her eyes closed in concentration as she manipulated the energy field around her. "She needs guidance," Una said softly. To understand and control her abilities. Thompson nodded, watching as Nova opened her eyes and smiled at them. And we'll be there every step of the way, he replied. Over the next few weeks, as plans for the integration hubs took shape, Thompson and Una worked tirelessly with Nova. They discovered that her powers extended beyond simply creating stable hybrid zones. Nova possessed an innate ability to facilitate communication and empathy between different species, bridging gaps that had long seemed insurmountable. The day of the first integration hub's inauguration arrived with a sense of nervous anticipation. The neutral planet of Harmony had been chosen for its symbolic name and strategic location. As Thompson, Una, and Nova stood before the assembled dignitaries from Earth, Norcadia, and the Galactic Consortium, the air crackled with possibility. Nova stepped forward, her small hand raised towards the hub's central pillar. As her fingers touched the smooth surface, a wave of energy pulsed outward. Thompson felt it wash over him, carrying with it a profound sense of unity and shared purpose. Looking around, he saw the same expression of wonder on the faces of humans and Norcadians alike. In that moment, as Nova's power brought them together, Thompson realized that they had taken the first true step towards a new era of interstellar cooperation. As the ceremony concluded and the delegates began to mingle, their usual barriers and hesitations melting away, Thompson turned to Una. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice filled with quiet awe. Una nodded, her eyes shining with pride as she watched Nova interact effortlessly with beings from both species. "And we'll face whatever comes next together," she replied, taking his hand in hers. Together, they stepped forward to join their daughter, ready to help guide this new chapter in human-Norcadian relations. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, it was filled with hope.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.